First of all, water and wastewater, be it urban or rural, it's important to all parts of the country. I think that's the first thing. And we need proper wastewater systems, be it urban and rural. In the line of the group water schemes and in the rural areas especially, Minister, first of all, we welcome last year the €230 for the schemes that have their own well and their own pump, the upgrade of monies, and this is badly needed because there was a lot of them struggling. One thing, Minister, I would ask you to note is that at the moment right around the country, and I would ask your officials to take note of it as well, if there are areas, and there are areas in right around rural parts of the country that don't have, that there may be people with their own pump or whatever and the quality of water mightn't be great, and if they want to start a scheme themselves, a group water scheme, there is no funding whatsoever being given by the department for that, and I would ask you to address that because there are a number of schemes around the country. I also note that for Irish Water to take over a scheme, you have to bring it up to a standard, and they're pretty reluctant at the moment at taking them over. I would ask you to make sure that they speed up in this. Minister, in the line of the regulations and on the wastewater or the water directive, in Ireland at the moment we have a two-tier system that if you live or are lucky enough to have a public sewer, obviously you don't have to be worried about it, but for people living in the rural parts of Ireland with the septic tanks, if you're in the 5% and if you're under such an earning, you will get a certain amount of a grant. But if someone happened to report a septic tank that they saw wasn't functioning properly and you're not in that 5%, then you're in trouble. And I think that we have to make sure that the funding is there for those people, because look at it, it's costing a good few pounds. Also, Minister, I think if you add up on the outskirts of towns, and I think this is a way going forward when you read the report, that the funding for community schemes coming together needs to be risen to make it. I know you're doing a cost-benefit analysis, but the cost-benefit analysis, in my opinion, doesn't add up, because if you solve a problem, it's ferociously important. Also, the prices, and it has been talked about here earlier, of Irish Water, what they're charging. Like group water schemes are taking in people between 800 and 12 or 1,300 euro. They'll give you a new connection. You go get a price from 3,000 and you wouldn't know it could be digital figures after that. I also think that we need to pay tribute to the people years ago and indeed today right around the country that are looking after the group water schemes. In relation to the report, Minister, that came out, it flies in the face, some of it, of madness, in my opinion. We have a scenario, as Deputy Kinney spoke about, Lochtalt and Sligo. We have that's where Irish Water are actually 50% of their sources are in designated areas. And we have people objecting, first of all, to them bringing the quality of water up. We have on board Planola objecting to them. So it's very hard to be bringing the quality of water up and putting in proper systems when the state is stopping the state to do it. Also, we have a situation with on board Planola or with the EPA at the moment. I saw a scheme in Glenamaddy where there's report after report being done for the last 20 years about raw sewerage. When Irish Water, in fairness to them, went and looked for planning permission on the discharge licence, lo and behold, it was blocked. They wanted them to go 7 miles down the road, and that cost ferocious money. And on top of that, they are taking Irish Water to court for sins of years gone by that what wasn't done in councils, and they are fining them. So the state is robbing money that's needed to put those places, or to put those things in, or to put the storage schemes in place. I think that water, in fairness to the likes of Irish Water, people may give out about them, but I saw in Roscommon, I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years where Williamstown, Clonfad, Granlahan, a boil water notice came, and in fairness, there was like a spare wheel, a temporary system that was brought in from Israel to keep it going, and then the whole scheme was put together. There has been improvements made, but I would ask you, Minister, that in the context of it all, that there are small towns around this country that we know there's raw sewerage going into, that we need to give a higher rate per house. I think it's something like £6,000 at the moment, if we want to solve it, because on their own Irish Water won't do it. If we turn round and try and make sure that we encourage groups, communities to get together, they will get the work done and actually help in the total of this. I think that we need to also watch, Minister, under the Water Framework Directive. There is stuff coming out at the moment that is not helping in the situation where farmers have to basically be recording what they're taking out. I think it's important, instead of using chlorinated water, that if there's a river running near someplace, that you can put in a sub pump and take it out and pump it for cattle, rather than we chlorinating it, UVing it, doing everything with it and pumping it up and down the road. And I would ask one thing, if it's anything is to come out tonight, that those group water schemes that aren't already in a scheme where they may not have good water, that you will put funding in place for a budget for them next year. Guramagat.